Welcome to Sung's Garage. Now, this is more than just a place to work on cars. This is a place where I'm able to connect with people, talk story, and share them with the world. All right, today is Your Car, My Car, as a special guest and a good friend of mine, actor Daniel Wu. Now, he updates us on his life since this lockdown started.
And you can't expect a 6.5-year-old to just get on an iPad and figure it all out. So I have to sit with her all day long, 3-4 hours a day to do it. So I become her teacher. And then I slowly turned into my dad.
And he also shows us his beautiful black cherry 1961 Lincoln Continental, which he calls Shelly.
Wow.
So this is kind of also amazing too. For such a long car with no B-pillar for support, I don't know how stiff, I don't think it is that stiff probably, but how stiff the chassis actually is.
He also shares his experience at the yearly SEMA car show in Vegas, where he's been fortunate enough to have 2 cars.
My favorite part of SEMA was standing back, away from everybody and watching people's reactions when they came around the corner and saw this tiny little baby car. It's just funny to see huge reactions for something so diminutive in size.
And we also talk a bit about xenophobia that's been happening from this pandemic.
But what we really need to be doing right now is especially in times like this, we need to get together. Everyone needs to get together and fight this fucking thing, right? And not put hate on each other and not be divisive and separate everyone else out so that we're all dealing with this on our own. We should deal with this as a collective whole.
Now, very fortunate to have 2 guest hosts this week, Jess from our very first YCMC and her sister Meagan, who both have a vast knowledge of cars. And we split this podcast into 3 parts because we just couldn't stop talking. So hope you all enjoy. All right, be good.
So Meagan is new to us. This is the first time I've met you, Meagan. So Meagan is Jessie's younger sister, and then my buddy Daniel here. I think you guys know who he is. He's a good friend and a huge car enthusiast, and a person I really respect. The man, behind the whole persona of who Daniel Wu, the actor, is. So I felt like this would be a kind of a great place to kind of introduce. But then, Daniel, let's get to you right away. So you're in the Bay.
Yep.
How are you handling this lockdown, brother?
It's okay. It's actually, as an actor, this is what it feels like between jobs. You know what I mean? Except for the fact that you can't go to the gym or you can't go to restaurants. But then it reminds me of being a poor actor, right? When you couldn't afford the gym membership or go out to eat and then didn't have a job, so you couldn't spend money and you were stuck at home. So you had to be creative with your time. And that's what it feels like right now. The only thing that sucks is the homeschooling stuff. My daughter's 7, or going to be 7 in 2 weeks. And so that is really difficult because she's not old enough to be doing all that work on her own. And it's a lot of work. There's a lot of assignments throughout the whole day. And you can't expect a 6.5-year-old to just get on an iPad and figure it all out. So I have to sit with her all day long, 3-4 hours a day to do it. So I become her teacher. And then I slowly turned into my dad. So all the crap my dad ever said to me, it just comes out of my mouth. I'm speaking to her and I'm like, what's happening? How did this happen? How did I turn my freaking dad? I thought I would never say these words in my life. And I even feel the tone of my voice sounds like my dad when I'm mad at her or trying to get her to focus and stuff. It's really interesting. Because I've never really spent this much time with her day in and day out and then trying to teach her something, It's difficult. It's challenging. So yeah, we now really appreciate what the teachers were doing before all this a lot more, Respect, definitely respect. Teachers are definitely underpaid because this is hard work.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the time with your daughters, giving you, a different lens on how you handle things, right?
Sure.
During this lockdown, I've realized I'm very impatient and, now I have no place to go. So step back, what's the rush? Why am I reacting that way? Sometimes I would react, we have that puppy. So then the way I was trying to train it and discipline is very reactive opposed to kind of sitting back and going, is that the right approach? Or, let's talk about it. Let's really invest time. I mean, it's given me that luxury to kind of reflect and go, wow, man, and maybe the way I was brought up a little bit was, maybe not the right way to, continue. I got to break that cycle. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Completely. That's why when I catch myself speaking my dad, I'm like, I told myself I wouldn't do that. So I have to check myself too. It's a constant checking of your attitude. And also, like, the times you lose patience is because it's taking longer than it should.
Yeah.
But you need to give her that space to figure it out herself, because you can't force education on someone. You can't force something onto someone. You have to give them room to explore. It's just like acting. Like if a director starts screaming at you, no, that's not what I want. You're not going to be able to do it, right? You're not going to be able to do the scene because someone's like in your ear. If you have the space and you're given the freedom to be able to be uninhibited and do it on your own, you perform better always, right? Without that stress. And so it's hard to, but you have to find the balance, because there is times when she's just not focusing and she's not like disciplined. And so you do have to know when to turn that switch on and when to turn it off,
Yeah. Do you think you getting into building cars has helped you become a better father or helped in parenting?
Yeah, with patience, with with when you're building on a car, shit happens, and then you just gotta like figure out how to deal with it, right? Like with the Honda back there, that when I took the body off and saw how much rust was under the on the frame and all that stuff, it was like, and we knew we had to get it done for SEMA, and it was like at that point I was like, oh my god, we're not gonna be able to do this. And we had to, like, immediately I wanted to throw a tantrum, but then I just like breathe, relax, let's figure this out. And we figured it out, and we got it all done, and we got it all done in time exactly for SEMA. And also there was like, the whole build, the whole process, there was all those kinds of things along the way. And the worst one was like, I'd taken all this time off of work because I was looking for a change. And I wanted to do something different, like do different kinds of projects. I didn't want to do another martial arts role for sure, because I would be pigeonholed for doing that forever. So I was looking for the next thing. And I was just hoping that next thing wouldn't come along while I was doing the build, because I don't have to get away from the build. And I got a project the week before SEMA, right? So I had to and luckily my best friend Ian, to help me build the car, he was great. He's like, just go do it. I'll finish up the last bits of the car. And he did it for me, and we did it. But I was stressing out for like a month. Like, should I turn this job down because I'm committed to SEMA or what? Yeah. But, you stress out, you freak out for a bit, and then you calm down and you figure out a way, like be like Bruce Lee, be like water and flow around it, and you'll find a way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you step back and you go, it's just a car. It's really about the experience. And like, when you see people, freak out over some little mistake or scratch on their car, you go, man, at home, there must be some stuff they need to work out, and I'm serious, man. Like, you ever see a dude, like, it's like people that won't let me drive their car. Like, they go, hey, I want to show you my car, and I look at the engine, and I changed the brakes, and I have this and I have that. And I go, can I take it for a spin? They're like, whoa, buddy. whoa. And then I think about it and I go, how come? They're probably the dude that puts their name on the mayonnaise jar, like that roommate that says, like, it's mine. Yeah. Like, I have it. It's delicious, but you can't touch it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, hey, so today we don't want to talk about the Honda because I think the whole world's seen the Honda. It's like a super dope car.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in this car that you're sitting in because, it's serendipity is that when I take my dog for a walk every evening, there is a Continental a couple of blocks away and it's just parked there. And it's so sad. It's so sad. It's just been parked there, and it's slowly just kind of rusting away. Yeah. But those suicide doors, just kind of make the whole car kind of pop off. So, kind of give me the history. I don't know about, you, Jess and Meagan, but I know nothing about this car. So, walk me through it.
I don't know that much more, but I do know a bit. I mean, obviously this is a car Kennedy was assassinated in, right? The same, not this car, but the same model, right? So there's a big history of it. But this car, when it came out, had a big impact on the car industry because at that time the cars were still really ornate, big fins, crazy designs, and this thing was just simple. It was just like what they call a slab, like a slab design. It was just really simple, no bullshit, and it kind of was going along with the times of what was going on in the design world, like minimalism, modernism, with architecture. All the modern design at that time was going back to the basics. and just being really simple and taking away all the ornate stuff that was in architecture and making really simple designs. So like Corbusier, Mies van der Rohe, people like that. And so then the car industry, anything that's related to design started to follow with that. And so this Lincoln, when it came out, it shocked people because the previous version of the car was a little more ornate, it had fins, all that kind of stuff. And then this slab side came out and it was just flat and just simple. And the chrome was super simple. But at the same time, it was a very complex car, like the way the top works and the hydraulics and electrics to get it to work. And everything in the car is like super modern. Like, you know how like modern Mercedes and European cars, like when you open the door, the window comes down a little bit to relieve the pressure when you close.
Yeah.
This car does that. Yeah. This car does that. It's 1961. And it's all analog. It's not digital, right? I would hate to have to go through this wiring harness. Like, dude, it would be terrible because there's so much all wired up and connected in this car, and it all works perfectly right now. I'm touch wood that it stays that way. I dread the day that starts to mess up on this car. But it's always been a really fascinating car. And then the reason why I got it, I wasn't actually planning to buy a new car, but my daughter had kept pushing me to. She was wondering why I didn't have any convertible cars in my collection. She's like, "Why don't you have a car with no top?" She was only 5 at the time. She's like, "I want a car with no top." And so that was always in the back of my mind. And 3 years ago, I was at Monterey Car Week and just randomly walked through an auction. And I saw this thing sitting there. And I'm like, wow, this thing's beautiful. And the main thing was the color is black cherry, which most of them are like cream, black, that kind of metallic green color. But I've never really seen this black cherry color before. And so it really popped, stood out.
How did you end up naming it Shelly?
She named it.
Oh, she did.
She wanted the car, so I said, "Why don't you name the car?" And then she named it Shelly, and she was only 5 at the time. And then I started talking to the owner, and he's from the Bay Area, and it was an original Bay Area car, and it was restored in the 90s, and it was displayed on Pebble Beach at the Monterey Car Week as when Lincoln was the mark that year. I'm not sure exactly when it was, I think 94. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that it was a local Bay Area car, low mileage, really well kept. And the guy was telling me all the stories about how he had so many great adventures with his family in it. I was like, oh, that's what I want. Because all of my other cars are kind of like singular experience cars, or like the passenger can have a good time, but they're going to get maybe car sick because they're fast or not have the best time. But this car is like you can fit 3 people in the front, 3 people in the back, and just cruise somewhere, and just makes any drive a lot more interesting. Just the reactions it gets, but also the exposure. It's so open, right? So you see everything around you. I've never really owned convertibles before. I've never really liked them. But having this one, like, it kind of opened me up to that world and realizing like, oh, I was missing out on a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of reasons why I got it, but I think mostly it was the kind of aesthetic of it and how simple a design it was.
Hey, Jess, Meagan, you guys know anything about this car? You guys have any history with this?
We haven't messed with any of them, no. There's a couple around town. See them driving once in a while, but they're pretty damn cool cars, that's for sure.
I remember they used to be really common, like when we were growing up, like in the 80s, you'd see high school kids driving around in them as their beater car, right? Because they get them for like $1,000 or something like that. And but now, like, I think you're just seeing less and less because they're just so hard to maintain. Like, they're really difficult to maintain when all that crazy stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
Well, hard to maintain, and kids don't really care about them. So
that's true. That's true. But of all these era of cars, I think this one it gets the most reactions. Like when I drive it around, like kids, older people, they all kind of love it because there's something simple about the design that kind of speaks to everybody. And it doesn't matter. All races, all sexes, all ages kind of just love this car. I get the most reactions driving this thing around than anything else I drive.
Yeah. It's more, I think it's more inclusive in terms of like the demographics that you're gonna like. Yeah,
because you don't even have to be a car person. It's like you see it and seeing it in the shape that it's in. It's just like it makes you smile. It's fun, And
the color is sexy. It's like if you said, you were a drug dealer and you drove that car, I'd go cool. If you said that you were, like a ballroom dancing champion, I'd go, cool, that car fits. If you said I'm a famous movie star, I'd go, all right, that fits, you know?
Right.
If you said that I'm retired and I'm just, you know, gonna go and chill out, that car fits. It's a sexy car. Well, let's see it, Daniel. Come on, let's
Okay.
Can you
What
give
do
us
you
a
want to
tour?
start, the outside or the inside?
Yeah.
From the inside.
Okay,
So,
here we go. Let me figure out how to flip the camera here. There we go. All right.
Wow.
Now,
so
things
simple.
I really like are like this little thin.
Things you can literally steer this whole giant boat with one finger.
And that's what you do. You kind of put the right arm over the back of the seat and the left arm with one hand. You know, it's a cruiser. You just cruise in it. And then like the dials and stuff, like the clock and the speedometer, there's no tack, but all the gauges. And then let me see here and get underneath. This toggle is the washers. I mean the wipers. Then you have the top control, the hood release, the brake release, and just everything is well detailed out. Even look at the pedals down here. It's like chrome rim with rubber in the center. Everything is thought out and well designed. Lighter. Unfortunately, the lighter is way too deep to put in a USB charger. So I can't do that. But yeah, blower control. And then here is a heater that pops out.
Wow.
So the heater comes out there. And then on some models, I'm still searching for it now. These came with an optional 45 record player that went down here.
Wow.
So you could put a record player there and play 45 records while you're driving. So I'm looking for that right now. I'm sure I'll find one at some point. And then you go over here and it's like real wood. This is all real wood paneling. The Continental logo got pulled off by my daughter, but it's there. it's in the thing. And then you go around, and then here I'm going to get out and show you the seats and upholstery.
What kind of wood did they use? Is that like mahogany?
I don't know, actually. It's a veneer for sure because it's very thin.
God, looks sick.
But it's real wood, you know. And then all these details, but the seats. I call it a rolling lounge. It really is a rolling lounge. You just kind of chill out and cruise in it.
So it's just lap belts. They only needed lap belts at that.
Yeah, only lap belts. Yeah. Only lap belts. And then there were none in the back. I had to install them in the back.
Mm.
And then that cool little detail, the Lincoln symbol there in the back. And then I'm going to pull out. Let's see. I'm going to come around.
Dang! Listen to that door. How big are the wheels on that car?
So these are 20s. I replaced them.
Wow.
So it had the original wheels, were bi-sply wheels. They were like, I think 14-inch white walls, but they were like so scary to drive on the highway because like, the grooves in the highway?
Yeah.
They pull your car, they would pull it all over the place. So I wanted to put modern tires and wheels on it. So I've got 20-inch. There were 22-inch options, but that's too like a little too gangster. I just want to keep it a little more subtle. So I want to make it like you look at it first and you think it's stock and then you realize it's not. So those are billet wheels.
So the fender is the factory cut that you didn't cut the fenders, right?
Yeah. So look at that. Wow. Look how smooth, look how simple that is right here. Right.
Wow.
And it's all pulled in. The bumper's pulled in. It's not like a big fat bumper that sticks out like that. Right. It's all minimalized and pulled in.
So clean.
And then the grill is really beautiful. And each year they came out from 61 onwards, they just replaced a different grill for each year. So you can tell what year it is by the grill. And this one is like that like pointy harmonica shaped grill in the front. And then let's go to the back. Oh, so I've also got air suspension in this. This is the only modern thing I've done, which is you can drop it all the way down and turn it back, bring it back up, and just made the ride a little more smooth. This is really beautiful, this Continental logo.
That's beautiful, yeah. And
then the rear light, like super simple, no ornamentation on it, just this little round circle right here. And then the bumper. And then this is like one of my favorite things, let's see if I can do it one-handed. There we go. The gas filler is in the center.
Wow. That's
In the
nice.
rear, hidden there. The people, we don't design like this anymore. You know,
Yeah.
new cars are not designed like that anymore. It's just like, look at this. Look at this surface area in the back. This is just the rear trunk section. It's so long.
Wow.
If
How
you
many
go like
bodies
this
can
angle,
you put in that thing, man?
yeah, you could probably put like 4 people in there.
Wow. You know,
Easily.
did I tell you that, you know, we had a Dodge Monaco that wasn't as big as this, but the trunk space was maybe 70% of that. And when we used to go to drive-ins, my mom would make my dad pull over and she would hide in the trunk so they didn't have to pay the extra adult.
Oh, we did that too.
What?
We had
You do that
what was
now? Yeah.
It wasn't one of those. No, we did that when I was little. It was my
Oh.
parents had a Volvo 240, and they put me in
Yeah.
the trunk and put a blanket over me, so they wouldn't have to pay. I'm glad to see that's a universal Asian thing,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah,
not just a Chinese thing.
yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, that's really about it. Do you want to see the air suspension work?
Yeah.
Well, we want to see the suicide doors open up too.
Okay, oh, that's
Oh, yeah.
right. Sorry. Forgot about that.
Okay.
Here we go. Hold on, let me open this. Okay. Let me go back a little bit.
Is that how far they both open? Like that's the door stop?
I think this is the. Yeah. No, wait, hold on. There's a little bit more there.
Oh.
And then let's see the front one. Yeah, this is it.
Wow.
So
That's
this
okay.
is kind of also amazing too for such a long car with no B pillar for support. Like, I don't know how stiff. I don't think it is that stiff, probably, but how stiff the chassis actually is. Because you have
Aren't they
nothing here. Sorry.
Aren't they unibody cars?
Yeah, it is.
Then you should be fine.
But you don't have a top or anything for torsion, so
Yeah.
it should be all right. It's lasted this many years, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see this section here with
Yeah.
boom.
It's so big, man. It's
It's
gigantic.
It's gigantic. It's literally a boat. It's a
Wow. So it has the factory engine there in it now?
Yeah.
What do
Let
they
me
have
pop
in it? Look at that radio, man. It's like a
Yeah,
home console.
Oops.
Yeah, the color is so beautiful. So beautiful.
There's a big old V8 in here. I forgot what the output is.
You know what you need in there is you need a small block 327.
Yeah? I hear those are like everybody loves those.
Yeah, Jess, you love
Right, Jess, Meagan?
V8 conversions, right? You're all about putting a small block or a 350 in anything, right? That's what you were.
Yeah, that's it.
So this is all totally stock. I haven't touched any of it. I don't think I will. I'll just leave it.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Because there's a little provenance on this car a little bit from its history and its history in Pebble Beach and all that. So I kind of want to keep it stock and not mess around with it. Like I know a lot of people will put the new 5-liter Mustang motor in, but I just don't really want to go there.
Yeah.
No, you got to keep that. You got to keep that engine. It's a time capsule now. It's like a piece of history.
I mean, you do that for one that's a beater and then you're bringing it back to life. But this one that's already like, in pristine condition, just don't mess
Well,
with
there's
it.
nothing wrong. So
Yeah. It
And
runs
it's
smooth.
the only thing you already got, so might as well keep it the way it is.
Hey, Meg, how old are you? How old are you, Meg? 20?
1.
21? So what do you think? What does your generation think of this? Do you think it's sweet or do you think it's too much
that's not-
excess?
That's not.
Why? Why is that not fair?
Because I like the old stuff. I'm
Oh, you do?
definitely not the same as my generation.
If you
Do
must.
you feel you don't represent, that you're not representative of your generation?
No, definitely not.
What's your generation into, you think? What's your generation about?
Hondas.
Yeah,
GDM, yo.
new JD.
Yeah.
Or not even into cars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
So
was
not fair.
when we were at SEMA. They kept trying to tell us to talk more about how to bring the youth back into automobile tinkering, because it seems like less and less kids want to mess with cars nowadays, or even want to even drive.
Hey, Meg, do you think so kids your age, you think they have hesitation or fear of just like wrenching, getting into cars these days? Because I mean, even for me, I don't know about you, Daniel, you know, the idea of getting under hood and like tearing an engine apart is intimidating, right? But then you
That's
do
so
it,
scary.
right? You do it
So
and you make mistakes, but then you can always figure a way out if you put the time in. There's always a way. There's always a zip tie solution. That's what I call it.
Speaking, it's so, like you were saying earlier, it's so much easier now because people have done it on YouTube or somewhere online. You can find some kind of information about it. Whereas before, like in the 90s or the 80s, dude, like you had to know a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy to get some kind of information out of somebody. Right now, it's just like any forum you go to. Some of them are too much, but you can find whatever information you need.
Was it fairly easy? Go ahead, Meg.
So much like a fear. I think it's the lack of caring. I think it's just, you know, they want something that just gets up and goes, and they don't care how it. They just want it to happen right then and there.
Yeah, instant gratification, absolutely.
Yeah, they care about look how it runs.
Yeah, it's a status. It's not the love of the car.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, but you know, I wonder if, I think the way you can convert, like wanting to have or wanting to wrench or have a classic car that you put your hands on, is that represents status. You know, instead of like, you know, rappers talking about a Ferrari, you know, like getting the latest Ferrari, and that you know equates to status. Like, you know, even like the old Porsches coming back, right? Like the RWB guys and the Singer guys. Like, if you have a Singer, you're a baller. Like, you're a baller if you have a Singer, right? So, but I'm not sure if the young kids understand and appreciate like what goes into making a Singer or that type of car, right? Or a classic resto mod. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think you have to think about like the majority of society is pushed towards like instant everything, right? Instant fame, instant gratification, instant this and that. And a vintage car is not that, man. Like, you gotta take care of it. You gotta, you know, it's like a pet almost, or like having a friend. You gotta take care of it and maintain it and put effort and time. And it seems like society right now is not in that vibe right now. You know, everything wants to be quickly done, fast food, fast this, fast that, you know. And so we don't take the time to really, you know, marinate in something anymore, you know.
Well, that
especially with like Instagram and stuff, because you see Instagram, it's all results, but you don't see process.
exactly.
right, yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
no one's able to respect the process. And builds, for me, the fun part is the process, not really the end result necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, see, and you have to love the end result to deal with the process. Like, we don't like sanding, we don't like body work, but we like what it ends up being. You know?
Yeah,
Because
there's always
work
crappy
too.
parts of a build, you know? But it's the journey. It's that journey, and you go through it, and you get there, and you know, it's cliche. The destination is the journey, or the journey is the destination.
Yeah.
But it's true though. It's like that whole process, like building the Honda. For me, was the first time I ever built. The 510 I was away filming, so I had to have it built. But this was the first one I did, and my goal was, I'm 45. I want to learn something new, you know, and I'd never done this before, and I went into it with that mentality, and said, okay, let's see what happens. And it's scary. It's totally daunting, super daunting. So I get why people are afraid of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say kids, because it's not necessarily just kids, but a lot of people have that throwaway mentality. They buy a new car, they trash the shit out of it, they give it back to the dealership, and they get a new one. They don't give two cracks. That's just
like a 2-year cycle. Switch it out.
Yeah, exactly.
But let me ask you, Jess and Meg, where did you guys learn this, you know, different, I guess, relationship to your, to vehicles. Like those, I can kind of understand somebody who looks at a car as just a tool, like a tool to get to A to B, right? And they don't have a relationship. Like when somebody doesn't name their car, I go, yeah, you probably don't care about it. And you look inside and there's garbage everywhere, you probably don't care about it. So is that taught, or like, or is it just natural? Or like car people just like naturally connected to vehicles?
No, because there's so many different kinds of car people.
True.
Yeah. And like we learned from our dad. Like when I was growing up, when I was a little before you were even born yet, Dad was building a Jaguar E-Type out of like 5 different E-Types. Okay, so he had the low windshield, the short doors, oh my God, it was like the holy grail of Jaguars, which I don't know if you saw some, but I have a picture of it on my Instagram. But it is the holy grail of cars.
Do you guys still have it?
His boss has it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was building it for boss when we were in Oregon. And so when I was growing up, I got to sit in the car and hand him turns, which could be screws. It could be screwdrivers. That could have been ratchets. It could have been wrenches. It could have been anything that turned. So, that was
cool.
Me. I was in the garage with Dad all the time. And Megan, she got in on it too. And when you were 8, she was getting paid more money than most dudes were to actually wet sand and mask and to do all of that. So like,
awesome.
That's
always
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, we were taught the respect and like how much time and how much effort, and
our time is never free.
Yeah, how much you need to know to be able to get that good, to be able to do it fast. And so like we have a lot of respect and a lot of, even if we don't know something, we know that it takes time to do something. Yeah. And so it's definitely something that was pounded into our heads as we were kids, to respect all different types of art in the car world. And that even if it's not your style, it's still art. It's still art, and it takes a lot of work to do.
And someone else is good at it and you don't like it, but it's still something they're good at and they're trying and they're good at it.
Yeah, very personalized.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
I want to ask you guys if you think it affects like how you deal with other things in life, like being able to like take on a car project and break it down and figure out how to manage it and do it and get it done. Like that also, that those skill sets can apply to anything else in life. I'm wondering if you find that applicable. What's that?
It hasn't hit for me yet. I'm a train wreck. That's cool.
I'm sure maybe you don't know yet, but it's probably formed the way you think in terms of how to like when you approach a project like a car, how to like what the process is going to be, what the steps are, what do you need to do first, what's going to be last, how do you organize everything, like all that. Those are really important skill sets in life that a lot of people don't learn, and that's why they can't get anything done, is because they can't approach something. They don't know how to approach it.
So natural for us that we don't even realize it a lot of the time.
Yeah, like when we actually went to hot rod school and we took the collision refinishing course, we're like, oh crap, we know nothing. This is going to be so great. We're going to learn all of the stuff. And we got there and we're just like, this is the most boring thing of my entire life because we know all of it. Like, I don't know. It just, I guess you're probably.
But you got affirmation though that you knew a lot, right?
Yeah.
You knew more than you thought.
True.
So that's a great thing too. It was like me, like I never learned to act. I just started acting. I never went to classes. And then 7 years into it, I went to an acting workshop for like 8 weeks. And I was like, oh, okay. The things I've been doing were right. Like I was fumbling my way through it, but I finally learned it through experience. And that's what you guys did. It's like you learned through experience, through osmosis, basically, through your dad, right? And so you got those skills that your dad taught you all that time. What a beautiful gift. That's amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. The lockdown has, forced me to do things normally I would be scared to do. With the Opla build, like I probably would have set probably 100% of the car out to get it done by somebody else, right? Because that's for me, the low hanging fruit. And that was originally what I was thinking was like the right way to do it. Right. And then because of the lockdown, you know, things were all closed down. And then it was either do nothing or go in and try. And I tell you, man, if you ask like anybody who sees the car, they start laughing because they go, they've never seen that many zip ties on a car ever, ever, right? It's all temporary. But because I made so many mistakes, like so many. And I sit there and I go, why didn't I just wait 2 seconds? Why didn't I measure again, take a picture of it, step back, ask somebody else, and come back, and then measure again, and just like wait one day. But then I would go for it, and then I would start going, why? I spent the whole day making this pattern, and I messed it up, right? Because I was impatient. So I tell you, working on a car, and like, first of all, one thing is like my fear of doing things. I feel like there's this like young version of me that's come out to just this fearless version. Because as I get older, I start being more reserved,
exactly,
being more cautious, right? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because time isn't free. Like I don't have the time to do it. So I have to be cautious with that. And then I feel like, you know, my learning curve starts to, you know, plummet because I'm not doing anything new. Like it's just repetition. I become a creature of habit, right? And then second and most importantly, that my parents and my wife and myself, I get on myself about is that I'm impatient. You know, like I should just like relax, man. There's no rush because it's the journey. It's not like if I finish the car tomorrow, there's no SEMA anyway. So what, you're going to take an Instagram picture and you go, I'm done. Nah, man, I don't want it to be done. I want it to continue. So it's made me realize it's like in life, like what's the rush? You know, like enjoy it, like really enjoy it. It's easier to say, but it's really kind of cleared that lens. It's giving me a reboot, guys. So
totally,
that's what I've got.
Yeah, that's exactly like why I did that Honda build, is because I don't know if I told you this, Sung, but like I almost died last year from appendicitis.
No, you didn't tell me this.
My appendix burst and I thought it was food poisoning. I let it go for 3 days. And I was in fucking like bad pain, but I still didn't go to the hospital. And when I finally got to the hospital, I was so septic. My guts were so septic that they immediately put me into surgery. They're like, if you waited one more day, you would have died. I was like, what, really? And I didn't think about that. I was food poisoning. I'll just get better at some point, right? And so it's emergency surgery. They couldn't get it out. So they had to clean me out and then put me on an antibiotic drip for 10 days. I was in the hospital. I couldn't eat. And so those 10 days I was in the hospital, I had this kind of meditation. It was like, shit, I'm 45 now. I'm like, it's literally midlife right now. And like, I've learned a lot, but I feel like I've kind of plateaued in terms of learning things, right? I mean, I've been in the film business 20 years or whatever. I learned a lot there, but I want to learn something different. So like, I was like, I love cars. I've always wanted to put a car together. Let's try this. Let's do it. Let's try and build this thing. And like, I chose the worst car to try and learn off of because this Honda was so, the parts and everything just so rare. And it's just a difficult car to work on. But that was the goal, was to try and go into this journey and come out of it with knowledge and this idea that, oh, I can keep this idea of keep learning as I get older and not be complacent and not just pay somebody to go do it for you, you know, and just learn it yourself.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed part 1. Now join us for part 2, where Daniel and I share some of our SEMA experiences and how the car community has embraced us. Now, you all be good.